Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Jenny here, and I'm here today with Rikki once again. Thanks for joining me. It's been a little while, but thanks for doing another review.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. We're here today to review Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, directed by Shane Black, and it's from 2005, and I think it was actually his debut feature, even though I know that he had written Lethal Weapon and The Last Boy Scout and The Last Action Hero. Some of those are like box office bombs or were box office bombs. But he ended up getting a shot to direct, and that was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And had you seen this before?
Seen it once. Once on HD DVD.
Yeah, nice.
I don't know if you were maybe too young to get in on the ground floor of HD formats, but
I remember,
I was.
but I didn't
You
have
remember it?
any. I didn't have any stock in it. I didn't have any. I hadn't bought a Blu-ray player. My first Blu-ray player was probably like 3 years or 4 years into it.
Yeah,
Maybe
Well,
5 years.
was an early adopter, so I bought the HDVD add-on for the Xbox 360, and you know, we all know how that sort of turned out. But then what they were doing is once lots of the studios started like shutting down HD DVD production, there was a Australian company that was just selling all its HD DVD movies for about $2 each. So I ordered like a whole pile, about 60 or 70 HD DVD movies for about $2 each, and
Nice.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was one of those. So I got that for an absolute steal.
That's awesome. Do you still have that or those HD DVDs that you got?
I held on to those HD DVDs for a long time. It was probably only 2 or 3 years ago that I was doing a big sort of clear out of clutter and putting very, very strict rules on myself of either I'm going to use it, buy it, or throw it away. So the HD DVD had to go, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but I mean, totally understand. I mean, at this point, those are relics, but I didn't. Yeah, I never had an HD DVD myself. I had some, obviously, like I said, like 5 years into it, I got Blu-rays, but I did. I had a DVD collection and I had a VHS collection, but yeah, I never tapped HD DVD. But I know Jay from a Film Junk, obviously, was like when the format wars were going on, he chose the side of HD DVD, and that didn't work out, obviously. But I do agree with a point he made back then, in that you would think that HD DVD would be the obvious next step because it has that brand name recognition. Like you would think it would just go from DVD to HD DVD, but that didn't end up happening.
But maybe that was part of consumer confusion. And maybe it's the same with 4K Blu-ray, because it's just still called Blu-ray. Then do consumers understand that it's something different?
Yeah, that's
but
true.
I think it's wise that you're not an early adopter with these things, because you get to actually see which format properly establishes itself. I'm pretty sure that, I think Sean, if I recall correctly, I think he had an HD DVD player as well, but maybe he wasn't as passionate a supporter of it. Could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He might have had one. I think maybe he did, but yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. But he wasn't as vocal about it as Jay was. But yeah, I'd seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I had seen it. I probably watched it for the first time in like 2016 or something. So I didn't see it when it came out, obviously. But yeah, I saw it back then, and I watched it again in the theater for like a Alamo Drafthouse screening that happened around Christmas time. I saw that like in 2019, so I'd seen it twice before, and then this third time, so I had quite a bit of distance from it. It had been about, I guess, 4 years. But I've always liked it. I really like Shane Black. I think I prefer The Nice Guys, but I still think this is a pretty fun noir buddy thriller. And I love Robert Downey Jr. I love Val Kilmer. Those are just some initial thoughts. But what are your initial thoughts on the movie?
Well, my gap between watching it first in now is a lot bigger. I imagine it was probably 2007 when I first and last saw it, so it's quite a gap in years.
Yeah, for sure.
And I do remember liking it, but I was sort of going into this rewatch probably expecting a 3.5. Yeah, it's pretty good kind of watch. I didn't really remember much about the plot, and I really loved it.
Yeah.
I think these days I think I just go into movies looking for things to like, and it was a very surprising rewatch in that pretty much a 5-banger for me. Do you know?
Nice.
I was expecting 3.5, maybe 4, and it was I think Nice Guys is a very apt comparison, not just because they're the same creator, but a lot of similar energy to it, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And they both take place in LA. I mean, pretty much if you just take Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is in LA, and you just transpose it to the 70s, you've got the Nice Guys. And I don't think all of Shane Black's movies have some sort of Christmas element. And I don't think the Nice Guys is as heavy on it, but it is there. There is some little bits of Christmas throughout it. And yeah, that's an interesting thing. I remember hearing Shane Black tell a story about why he loves Christmas in his films. And he said that like he went to an LA like food truck at some point in the past, like in the 80s or something, and he just saw like a little piece of tinsel like hanging from like the food truck, and it was just barely a Christmas decoration. But he loved that idea of like the city being something that's not snowy. It's a very like sunny climate. And so it's not really Christmassy at all, but he loved that idea of like just moderately decorating and trying to have the Christmas spirit, but it just barely being there.
I mean, I think that describes a lot of these movies really well, because I've seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang on some like best Christmas movies lists. It's not a Christmas movie at all.
Yeah.
It's just got I'd say Christmas window dressing. It's like a font choice. It's just you see Christmas stuff in the background, you see Christmas trees, you see Christmas related clothes, but I don't think Christmas is mentioned, and there's nothing plot wise or story wise that has anything to do with Christmas, unless I'm misremembering that.
Well, you see Michelle Moynihan in her Christmas outfit.
Clothing, yeah.
Yeah. But like, yeah,
there's not even a joke about. There's not even a Christmas joke about it or anything like that. Like, it's just literally, he clearly loves Christmas so much that he'll take a plot that has nothing to do with Christmas and just put Christmas into it, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I think that's, again, when people are talking about what makes a Christmas movie and what isn't, I don't think Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is a Christmas movie. It's a cool movie that's set at Christmas, like a lot of Shane Blake's movies.
Yeah, which I think makes it appropriate that we're actually reviewing this the day after Christmas. So it's not quite a Christmas viewing, but or it's 2 days after Christmas.
Yeah,
is it
3 for me?
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it was actually funny. Oz on Boxing Day, we watched Die Hard 2, and I just sort of felt like we need like a list of the greatest Boxing Day movies to watch, and I think Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is a great Boxing Day movie, and I think Die Hard 2 is as well. The ones that aren't, they're not Christmas movies, but they're at Christmas, and they just go down really well when you're just sort of recovering from Christmas Day.
Yeah, for sure. I actually think Die Hard definitely fits into this sort of area with Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, but I do think it has a little bit more of a Christmas thematic thing going on. It's not heavy or anything, but there's the idea of him wanting to get back to his family for Christmas and stuff like that. And I feel like they talk about Christmas a lot more than they do in this movie.
There's a Christmas-related joke with ho ho ho, now I have a machine gun. So there's, at least it's referenced. Yeah, It's closer to a Christmas movie than Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is.
Yeah, but I think I like the idea, even though this isn't like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, they don't talk about Christmas that much. I like the idea of Christmas just being in the background as like an aesthetic thing, like just having it like, because all kinds of things go on during the month of December, and if you're driving around or doing whatever you're doing, it is interesting to make a movie where all that stuff is in the background, because that is the case for at least a month or a month and a half out of the year.
Yeah, I'd say it's like garnish on a meal. It just gives it a little bit of flavor, a little bit of
Hmm.
spice. And I
Yeah.
think there's something about probably not so much the Shane Black movies, but the Christmas aesthetic of American movies. I've watched a lot. I've been subjected to a lot of sort of Hallmark style Netflix Christmas movies this year, and some of them are borderline unwatchable. But the thing that always makes it at least somewhat enjoyable is just these scenes of these small towns with the snow and the decorations everywhere, and it's just an amazing look.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's something I enjoyed about. I rewatched the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which came out last year, and I love that. And I love the scene where they set up all the Christmas lights for him, and they turn on like an extra lever, then it's just this humongous, like insane Christmas light area. And I just love that look of just having tons and tons of lights. But and you can actually see that, maybe not quite to that level, but you can see that in some neighborhoods around me. Like there's certain neighborhoods that like really go crazy on Christmas lights and like have like archways that go from like each end of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And every house just has like insane decorations all over it. But yeah, I like that vibe of just driving around that at night.
We so I'm in New Zealand, Christchurch, New Zealand, and we have similar things where there are certain streets or specific houses where they become the Christmas lights thing, and they just invest a huge amount of time and energy, and they'll advertise it on Facebook and all that sort of thing, and it's normally a bring along like a couple of dollars as a donation, and then the money goes to a charity. But the biggest difficulty being that sunset doesn't start till after 9 p.m.
Yeah.
in the New Zealand summer, and it's really not till around 10 p.m. that it's actually dark, to the point where you really get the full effect of Christmas lights. So most people here aim for that same sort of Christmas as North America and all the lights on the house and that. But the reality is, the kids will, lots of kids will never really see it because it's just bright. Even at 9 p.m., it's really, really bright. It just looks like the middle of the day.
Yeah, like I think because we're on the Film Drunk Discord together, but I saw you post a picture of you going to see some Christmas lights in New Zealand. I'm guessing that was about like 9:30 or so.
I think I posted the time, yeah.
Yeah, but it looked like it was like just dusk, like the sun was just starting to go down.
Yeah, it's like it was cloudy and overcast, so that was probably making it a little bit darker than it would have been otherwise. Otherwise, it might have been like blue skies. But
yeah,
it's like everyone loves Christmas. I think just New Zealand gives it a good go, even though it isn't really the best. But New Zealand's probably more, Christmas itself is a bit different, and it's normally at the beach or over a barbecue. But we keep most of the trappings of Christmas that you celebrate in the US.
Nice. And I did want to ask you some questions about New Zealand Christmas a little bit. So I remember you telling a story in the Discord about how when you were a kid, you would get gifts, like there would be like a sack of stuff like at the front of your bed.
Oh man, yeah, that was although I've talked with a few people recently about it, and like in New Zealand, and no one had that experience. So maybe that was just my lower middle class upbringing, where presents weren't wrapped, and you'd just leave a pillowcase at the end of your bed, and then it would be filled with toys. So I might be able to step. That might be one of those things where you have this memory of something growing up, and you think that it was the same for everybody, and then no one else had it. So.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was like a New Zealand tradition or if that was just how things were.
No. Well, I mean, certainly, yeah. And again, you only ever have your own childhood, sort of, to base these sorts of things on. But certainly now, all that wastage you expect of Christmas, of just all this wrapping paper and everything. There's there's a stocking in our house, and then there's presents from mum and dad. that are wrapped, and then the presents from Santa aren't wrapped. They just get placed under the tree. I imagine it's pretty similar to how it plays out in the US.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the main things are the eating. I mean, a lot of families will do a roast. Turkey isn't as common, but some Kiwis will do it. Turkey's not a meat that you normally see in the shops year round. I think it's a special thing for Christmas. Like, they're more likely to eat chicken or lamb.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some turkey on Christmas, and yeah, I don't think I've ever eaten turkey when on any day other than Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to have turkey on Thanksgiving and then ham on Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's not always, I guess, the way my parents have been doing it lately. We have turkey on Thanksgiving, and then they've been doing prime rib on Christmas. So
sounds like a good Texan Christmas.
yeah, but my uncle does ham. He did ham this year, so that's good. But I know I don't think does New Zealand have like an equivalent of Thanksgiving?
No.
Okay.
I think that's such a specific cultural thing for North America, though. You know, with globalization, and we have a lot of encroachment of British and American sort of culture. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're becoming a smaller place. The big thing we really just have is Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales. That is the part of Thanksgiving that is very much in New Zealand, to the point where the Thanksgiving, the Black Friday and Cyber Monday weekend is the biggest sort of retail event in New Zealand these days. It's sort of past Boxing Day. So people, if they're waiting for a bargain, then Black Friday is when they'll do it. Whereas Boxing Day is the day when, if people get gift cards, they'll go out and hopefully get something.
Yeah, I don't think we ever had Boxing Day here. Although certainly, like the day after Christmas, there's certainly tons of people going to stores to use their gift cards and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know they had Boxing Day in Canada for sure. Because I only ever would have heard about it because of Film Junk.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Black Friday, I think, as far as I remember, like I don't remember being around my whole life, but like I remember it becoming a big thing like around when I was like 14 or so, which would have been like 2008, maybe earlier than that, like 2006, 2007.
In terms of Thanksgiving, the closest we have culturally is Waitangi Day, which is a public holiday in New Zealand in February, and that's about the Treaty of Waitangi, which is the treaty between the native Māori people and the British settlers, which basically formed New Zealand from that point on. So that's our sort of, again, that feels probably the closest to what Thanksgiving is all about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like Thanksgiving, and at least in America, like it's lined back to back. So you have Thanksgiving, and then you have a month later Christmas, and then before that, a month before Thanksgiving, you have Halloween. So October, November, December, I feel like this like sort of marathon of holidays.
It's stacked, isn't it? Because you just as you're winding up Halloween, Thanksgiving, as you're winding that down, then probably I imagine that during Thanksgiving, there's probably already Christmas decoration up in the shops and that. So
people start decorating for Christmas like as early as November 1st. Like a lot of people like just skip Thanksgiving and just start celebrating Christmas.
Yeah. Well, so. I mean, we're starting to get it in October in New Zealand in terms of Christmas. Stores starting to do Christmas advertising, and I think probably the fact that there isn't Thanksgiving and that Halloween's not a huge thing over here, then it's probably a fairly clear runway to that. I imagine it would be more awkward in the US when you've actually got a couple of other big days that it kind of interferes with.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I forget what I was gonna say. I was just gonna say, it's interesting how everyone has different traditions, and there's always like different ways of celebrating everything. Like I always like didn't like celebrating or doing anything for Christmas until like December 1st. I'm very like ADD or not ADD, OCD in that way. Like I want October to be Halloween, and I want Thanksgiving to be November, and I want Christmas to be December. But like lately, I'm sort of warmed up to the idea of starting to get into the Christmas spirit the day after Thanksgiving, like after Thanksgiving, which would be like November 25th or something. But that's about it. I certainly don't like doing it all November long.
It's also a little bit early to get started on like your Christmas movie watches as well. So
yeah, I'll watch some in late November.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't like to watch like super Christmassy stuff. Like this in November this year, I watched Tangerine, which is another movie where it has like sort of Christmas in the background in a very Shane Black kind of way.
Yeah. Well, our first one sort of marginal, but we kicked off our Christmas movie watching season with The Nightmare Before Christmas because it feels quite ideal because it sort of bridges Halloween to Christmas.
Yeah, for sure.
Often we keep not watching it every year because when we come into Halloween, we'd be like, it's more of a Christmas movie, and then when it comes to Christmas, it's kind of Halloween movie. So watching it like late November or something like that feels quite good because it's just sort of right at the epicenter between those two.
I think November is the perfect time to watch that for sure. I've only seen it once, but I remember liking it. I also think that Fantastic Mr. Fox, I don't think that Fantastic Mr. Fox ever references Thanksgiving, but to me it feels like a Thanksgiving movie because, well, one, there's multiple scenes of like feasts and stuff, and then two, the color palette is very like autumn, like fall colors and like oranges and
very
like
so.
golden colors and stuff. So to me, that is like a November kind of movie.
I think even like when they're underground and they're having a feast together, it's almost like a Thanksgiving speech that Mr. Fox does.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and it was released around Thanksgiving time in 2009. So I have to think that was somewhat intentional, but yeah. So I sort of lump it into that. But we went on off quite a thing about Christmas. I guess we should probably jump back into the movie itself.
I was thinking that as well. So I didn't make too many notes because I was like, I don't know how much there is to really talk about with this movie. Like, but some stray observations. I kind of thought that the fourth wall breaking sort of dialogue would be really annoying and dated, but I kind of I enjoyed it. I didn't find it actually obnoxious at all.
Yeah, I liked it too. That seems like something that is overdone now. I mean, you think of something like Deadpool that does it, and there's all kinds of things. But something about Robert Downey Jr. in it, and I guess the script itself, it's just done like a clever way, in a funny way. And I like the way it ends, like it ending on, like you have that kind of like, heavy, messed up scene of like Val Kilmer slapping the old man around. I remember seeing that in the theater, and everybody's sort of like gasping when he slaps him. And it makes sense why it's happening, because he's the abusive father of Michelle Moynihan's character, but the sister of Michelle Moynihan who ended up dying. It's their father who was abusive, but I like that scene, and then I like that scene sort of being lifted up with like the levity of that last scene where, Robert Downey Jr. is sort of making fun of the scene and being like, "Don't worry about it." And I also like that idea of just him being on like a tape, like just taping himself, and you can kind of imagine that he's been doing that. That's what he's been doing this entire time, and that every piece of the narration has been coming from that perspective. But I think the way that the narration in the fourth wall breaking is put together, I think is interesting.
I think it's self-aware, but not in an obnoxious way. Like Deadpool, I think can be quite obnoxious. Like it's quite smarmy, whereas I think there's something a little bit more relaxed about Robert Downey Jr.'s patter.
I think you could even make like, maybe I'm like overreaching, but like I think you could like make an idea of like maybe this is because they're making a movie out of his story, because the movie takes place in LA and people are auditioning for roles and whatnot, and you could kind of like have the idea that maybe they're making a movie out of this story, and then he is sort of like commenting on it and recording himself for that. So you can kind of make excuses or reasons for it. Like I think it works better than it does in Deadpool, where it's just, you know, just meta stuff for the sake of being meta.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I like how, and where it gets very meta in this is where he's like literally stopping the movie and like commenting on like, you know, how sort of trite and like obvious some things are. But even that stuff I don't mind, even though it's more sort of silly. But I guess you can go back to like Ferris Bueller did this sort of stuff, even though it's not to the level of this.
Yeah. I think even like there's not much in the way of pop culture references, which I think means it ages a bit better, and even the reference it makes, it's in universe pop culture, sort of like the sort of fictional beer, is it beer adverts, the ones with the CGI beer, and sort of like creates its own in universe sort of stuff. So
the only thing that really dated is like, you know, when Val Kilmer's phone is ringing and it's just these little blocky phones that have this like really old sounding ringtone.
I think I feel like the sexual politics date it a little bit as well.
For sure, like a lot of the like, you know, gay humor and commenting on, you know, Val Kilmer's character being gay is very 2005. Although I think Shane Black thought he was being progressive, because I saw him like comment on like he'd never seen a gay character like be like sort of the tough hero, and that's cool, but like it still feels the way that everyone's sort of freaked out by him and all this stuff feels very 2005.
Yeah, it's I think you're right that it was progressive at the time. It's not terrible, like it's not embarrassing, but you can tell it's hasn't been made in the last 10 years. And he is Gay Perry, that's his name, isn't it? He is like a cool character. He's not you know, he's not comic relief. He's a lot more competent than Harold. That's
yeah, for sure.
But again, there's probably more like you know, not to go on a tangent, but like I watched a few of the Christmas movies I watched this year were quite a good gay Christmas movies, and one of them in particular, it's just not really referenced at all. It's just such a it's you know, the language is becoming, you don't need to make jokes about it or comment on something being a gay movie, because it just is its own thing. Because in the same way that you don't in a heterosexual romance, you don't comment on it being heterosexual, like why do you need it for a homosexual? So I think it puts a lot more emphasis on it, and that's kind of his character. And I just think there's just some, I don't know, there's other things that just felt like a little bit weird. Again, that kind of 2000s thing, like with the kind of the near date rape earlier in the movie. I don't know if that's the right term, but there was actually I did like that scene as well, because there's a few scenes that subvert expectations, and one of them is that early scene where Robert Jr. does that tough guy talk about, like, you know, this is what's going to happen, you know, you're going to walk out of here, and then it just cuts to him just getting beaten up outside.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
Yeah,
made me laugh.
Yeah, I like Robert Downey Jr. in this a lot. It's interesting seeing him looking younger. I mean, seeing him in Oppenheimer. I mean, I know he had makeup and stuff in that, but still, he's aged a bit since this, and I thought he's actually not as old as I thought, because I would have guessed he would have been in his mid 40s here, but I think he was only 38, which is youngish. But I guess he got his start, because I think back to him being in movies in the 80s, and I think, well, he must like be up there in age, but he got his start pretty young.
Yeah, he's like a teenager in a few movies. Is it like Weird Science? He's kind of one of the teenagers.
Yeah, he's like one of the bully characters, and he has a lot of roles like that in like 80s comedies. But yeah, he's great in this. I think it's one of his best like leading roles, at least one of. I mean, obviously he went on I mean, I personally like the MCU movies. I like him as Iron Man. Yeah, and I mean, I like Robert Downey Jr. a lot. He's not somebody that usually like you think of as being like somebody who can disappear into a role. Although like Oppenheimer is a decent example of that. I mean, he's not playing his usual character there, but he can do things. But he sort of is usually like this sort of quippy, sarcastic kind of guy that he is here, and even in Iron Man to some degree.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to sort of parody the way he talks, his sort of cadence and that. But that's kind of what you hire him for. That's his sort of that's what he brings. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very very proto Iron Man, and I'm pretty sure that this was the movie before Iron Man. So in spite of it not being a huge success, I think this kind of laid the foundations for him being cast as Tony Stark.
Yeah, I think before Iron Man, he would have done. It would have been this, and then I know between there he did Zodiac as well. And that sort of led to him getting some sort of respectability back after his whole troubles with being in jail and whatnot. And I know he had done some stuff before this, even after he got out of jail, but he had been in some like really like low, like The Shaggy Dog with Tim Allen, and like just like questionable stuff. I think this was a return to form.
Was he in that?
Yeah, he played like the lawyer.
The baddie or something.
Yeah, he was like the bad guy lawyer. And I watched it like a few years ago. I remember when Disney Plus was first released. That was the first thing I watched on there, The Shaggy Dog, and I only watched it because I wanted to see Robert Downey Jr. in that movie.
I mean, that's funny because I think you could almost call this a Shaggy Dog movie.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
In terms of it, probably there's probably a bit more. I think there is. Yeah, there is. I guess there's a clear plot, but it felt like The Big Lebowski in terms of it's kind of confusing, and there's like sort of confusion over who's who and things, and I was very much getting a sort of a Big Lebowski aimless plotting. You don't really need to understand every single mechanic of the plot to kind of get the story that's going on, which was at me, I was slightly confused about a few things with the female characters, but I got it. But it probably doesn't help that the all of that Hollywood talk, I don't know how it plays to people in North America, but it's pretty hard to understand from another country, like not the words, but just like what the heck are people talking about, and potentially that is maybe the point, and maybe you're feeling how Robert Downey Jr.'s character feels coming from another part of the US, and that in La La Land, it's very much got its own language, and at those parties, people are just saying some strange things that just sound like complete non sequiturs, and they seem to understand what each other are talking about. But some of
Can you
it's
remember
lost
any
on me.
examples?
Oh, I'd have to. I think there's a couple. There's a couple of things that people say that even Harold seems confused by. But no, I don't. I don't have examples, but just a lot of it. It feels like I think this is kind of supposed to be confusing, like these people are almost talking a different language.
Yeah, because I don't remember. It'd be interesting to watch it with you, because I don't remember being confused by any of that stuff. But I definitely was confused by the plot throughout. But I think that's a classic noir kind of thing. Because you look at Inherent Vice and like The Big Lebowski, like you said, like usually I've always, from the way I understand it, like with noir, there's like two sides of the coin. There's like sort of like a crime gone wrong kind of noir, and that's something like Fargo, where it's like, somebody's trying to plot something nefarious and like it just ends up falling apart and going awry. And then there's the other side of the coin where it's like a detective, or it doesn't have to literally be a detective, but it could be somebody in the place of a detective where they're looking into a crime or something that's going on, and it sort of unravels this like web of conspiracy or intrigue. And that's what we have here, and you have in like The Big Lebowski and Inherent Vice, and all kinds of stuff, even Under the Silver Lake. But I think all in terms of that kind of side of it, it's usually confusing, and it even like mirrors the character, because I know they reference this in Inherent Vice. Like he's going through like a whiteboard of him trying to connect everything, and he's just like, what is going on, and that mirrors the audience. But yeah, like you said, it's the confusion definitely, I think, is mirrored in Robert Downey Jr.'s character, and he is basically the audience's perspective. So I think it works.
It does, and it sort of it talks about the mechanic of those stories within the movie as well, because there's that somewhat meta aspect of hinging it around those. I can't remember the name of the character within the universe, but the one of the key characters played was it a TV detective, or it was a series of novels, I think, detective novels or noir.
Oh yeah, those books. I forget the name too.
Yeah.
I want to say Dashiell Hammett, or I don't even know if that's the right name. But yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about. Yeah, and that's definitely you can see that Shane Black was inspired by that sort of material, that sort of pulp fiction kind of crime novels. And I think that this, from reading a bit about this from Wikipedia, this story was sort of inspired by and like loosely based on like a crime story from the 40s, like a detective novel kind of thing. But he sort of rewrote it into his own thing, and so that's interesting. But also, like watching it, there was a lot of like Chinatown stuff. It reminded me a lot of Chinatown.
Yep.
And I think he was in the Wikipedia. It said that he was inspired by Chinatown, and that was definitely something he was sort of using as a launching off point when he started writing it.
Yeah, sort of a lower stakes conspiracy, isn't it? Like a more sort of personal, individual sort of plot. But
yeah,
I really like the ending where the sort of the action scene. I think there's something fun when there's a lot of build up and then there's an action scene with someone that's not a trained person, and where every little win they have is kind of more satisfying, probably a bit like Kurt Russell in Breakdown. When seeing somebody that's not used to these situations managing to get through, and the scene on the bridge, and when he's hanging there, and I thought it was a sort of a good hero moment for him.
For sure.
Going to save Michelle Moynihan's character. I really one of the other reversals of expectations is when he pulls out the book that took the bullet, and I'm thinking, oh, not this. This is such a cliche. And then they look at the back of the book and the bullet's gone right through and hit him anyway.
He's like, I guess that didn't work, and then he falls down.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I love that part too. I love that whole climax. Like you said, I love seeing him hang off the overpass, and I love him just firing his gun at people as he's hanging there. Yeah, and I thought some of the darker scenes worked really well. Like it'll dip into some heavy stuff, like when he first kills that guy. When that guy kills the girl, and the sort of henchman guy kills the girl in the pink wig, and then Robert Downey Jr. just sort of pops up, and then the guy, and he pulls out his gun, and the guy's like, "Oh, you've got a gun?" Like he's sort of laughing at him, but then he just starts shooting him. And I thought that scene was really good.
He doesn't hesitate. It's sort of like Frank in Film Junk. Like if it's between me and him, I will not hesitate.
Yeah.
but and then that scene where he does the sort of like Russian roulette sort of thing with the gun.
Yeah, that one was just like a mistake. He just shoots the guy.
Immediately shoots him, and it's such an unusual thing for the hero of a story to do, unless it's really trying to make them into an anti-hero. It's like he straight up murdered that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I like how all that stuff sort of subverts what would be in a typical movie, and I like that for sure. And I think obviously Val Kilmer and Robert Downey Jr. are a great duo. I like how this and The Nice Guys, I like how Shane Black pairs up people. I love Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, and then even going back to Lethal Weapon, like you have Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, and they're a great team as well. Yeah, but yeah, I really enjoy the movie. I would give it a 4 out of 5. It's not like absolutely perfect for me, but I definitely enjoy it.
Yeah, five for me. But I just love movies these days. Everything. Most movies get at least 3.5 for me these days, and I'm just easy to please. But I'm definitely gonna watch it again, and really, really, pleasantly surprised. Again, I just did not enjoy it anywhere near as much the first time, and whatever. I'm not sure why I love it so much this time, but I think I was expecting it to be a little bit boring. And you mentioned Inherent Vice a couple of times. That's the only Paul Thomas Anderson movie that I haven't finished. Like, I actually watched maybe the first half an hour, and then my wife got bored. I kind of got bored, and I've never returned to it.
Yeah.
I'm sure your recommendation would be for me to give it another go, but I thought I might be in that kind of territory, where I just can't really latch onto it and get interested. But no, I got interested very, very quickly.
Well, funnily enough, I watched this with a friend, or I started to watch this with a friend, and he sort of just veered off and like lost interest. And I think it's because he didn't understand what was going on in the plot. And it's something that you definitely like have to pay attention to if you're going to follow it. And you don't have to understand perfectly, but if you're going to keep up with it in any sort of way, like you definitely have to like, pay attention to it. And it's funny how like Robert Downey Jr. sort of references that at one point in his narration. Like he says something about like, oh, this person is this person. And then he's like, you would know that if you've been paying attention.
Yeah.
And, but I thought it was funny because my friend, like nothing against him. It's just that he was doing other stuff, and it's not something that you can really watch in the background. But
agreed. There's a lot of movies where you can kind of look through sales on your phone or something like that while watching it, and many of my Christmas watches this year I was multitasking, but this was one that was very clear to me in the first 5 minutes. Like, right, no, I'm going to get lost if I've got any distractions, so I need to give it my full attention. I think the moment where I kind of really latched onto it, I was like, yeah, this is going to be a good watch, was the revealing like how he got this acting gig with him coming in straight from that botched burglary, and then accidentally going into like a sort of audition where what has happened to him like 5 minutes before fits exactly the story he's reading.
Yeah, for sure.
Impossibly coincidental, but I'm like, yep, this is I'm gonna like this movie.
Yeah, it's something I definitely like, and I want to come back to. I'd like to see it again in the theater if that's ever an option. I mean, who knows if that'll happen, but like especially that last sequence where he's like hanging off the highway and stuff. Like it feels kind of big, and like it almost feels like a blockbuster in some ways. And it's interesting that he went on to do Iron Man 3, Shane Black, like after this. At least that it was years later, but it was his next movie that he directed. And then that obviously reteams him with Robert Downey Jr. But I really like that movie as well. And that movie is interestingly, there's a list of movies that you can watch on New Year's Eve. And if you time it, then the ball will drop at the same time as it's dropping in real life, and then it will switch to New Year at the same time in the movie as it is happening in real life. You can also do that with Phantom Thread, which I did last year. I might do that again this year. And there's a few movies like that, and it's fun because like everybody's like starts celebrating in the movie, and at the same point you hear like fireworks going off in real life.
Oh, nice. So
yeah.
Yeah, the small list of great New Year's Eve movies like Catherine Bigelow's Strange Days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically for me, a good New Year's Eve movie is just anything that has that sort of gimmick. And they weren't even intended as gimmicks. But if you have a movie where you see a ball dropping, then you can time it to that point.
Yeah.
Like, so say it happens 46 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
Then you do it 46 minutes before midnight, and you're good to go.
Yeah, just be damn sure that you don't have to pause for like a toilet break or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Then you have to switch it to 1.5 sort of speed.
Yeah.
Catch up and try and figure out the logistics.
Yeah. I think The Holdovers was actually that movie is sort of a Christmassy movie.
Which one?
The one that The
Oh, The Holdovers.
Holdovers with
Yeah.
Paul Giamatti. It came out this year, but they had a scene with New Year's, so maybe next year I might time that for New Year's. Yeah.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But anyway,
Well,
I think that's all about. Or go ahead.
I
Sorry.
was going to say I watched in terms of my Christmas watches, I got 15 Christmas movies in this year.
Nice.
And that doesn't count Kiss Kiss Bang Bang or Die Hard 2. And would it be really boring if I just quickly listed them from the worst to best?
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
Worst was Best Christmas Ever on Netflix, starring Heather Graham and Brandy. Hallmark Christmas romance movie. It was so bad. I think my Letterboxd quick review was something along the lines of, it feels like a David Wayne movie, you know, like They Came Together, or Wet Hot American Summer. In terms of the tone, it almost is so over the top with its cliches that it feels like it's going to become a weird parody, but it doesn't get there. Almost worth watching because of just how bad it is. Spirited with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. I hated it. I don't know if you've seen it.
To be honest with you, I watched that last year and I kind of liked it.
Okay, that's well. I mean, I could see that because at least it's got Christmas spirit for me. It was like a $75 million waste of time. It was pretty much Scrooged. It references Scrooged, but it basically is Scrooge, and I think the songs I just disliked, and I don't dislike Ryan Reynolds, but it was definitely annoying Ryan Reynolds. Secret Santa was a very low budget 2018 horror movie. Was pretty crappy, with a little bit edgelordy. Happiest Season, can't even remember what that was. I think that was maybe Kristen Stewart and Mackenzie Davis, and that's a whole bring your partner home to meet the family for Christmas, but haven't come out as gay, so pretending that she's her roommate, and all the associated sort of plot you expect from that. Falling for Christmas. Oh, that was Lindsay Lohan, another Hallmarky sort of Christmas Netflix movie where it's basically Overboard. She's a rich, daughter of a hotel tycoon, and she bumps her head while skiing, and then gets found by someone running a little small town resort, and it's Overboard. I take it you've seen Overboard, like the rich person gets amnesia and then
I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
but I definitely know that the kind of plot line. Yeah.
It's a Wonderful Knife. Horror movie with It's a Wonderful Life premise. So very similar story, but with like a serial killer going around. Justin Long's in it. It's not horrible. It's not great. Silent Night, John Woo's Silent Night. I think did you see that?
I did.
Yep. That's good. And that's where we sort of getting into 3-star territory now. Pretty good.
That's where I was on it too. Yeah.
Yep. Fun. The second almost no dialogue movie in the year. Not my favorite. I really loved Nobody Will Save You, or No One Will Save You, whatever it is. It's going to be in my top 10. Very Harold and Kumar Christmas. I'd never seen a movie with these guys. It was okay.
I have good memories of this, of watching it when it came out in the theater.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was fun. I was looking at some of the more recent reviews, and people talking about how like the attempts at 3D effects are really dated now, especially without 3D. But it was clearly making fun of 3D effects. So when things are getting pointed at the screen and it's not in 3D, that is clearly the joke, is what.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I got from it. Number 6 out of 15. Fat Man, Mel Gibson and Walton Goggins.
Oh
You
yeah,
seen that
yeah.
one?
I haven't seen it, but I remember
Yeah.
it coming out.
It's actually Scrooge is coming up, but that's the start of Scrooge when there's like armed soldiers kind of taking on Santa's workshop. That's pretty much what the end of Fat Man is. But Walton
Yeah.
Goggins is awesome. There's Something in the Barn, another sort of horror movie, a sort of a Gremlins-y Krampus type one, with Martin Starr from Silicon Valley. It's worth watching. Pretty
Nice.
good. Scrooge was number 4. I really want to love Scrooged. And whenever I look at my ratings of it, I'm like, why did I give it a rating that low? Like, Scrooge is awesome. Watching it, I think it's the end. Like, what are your feelings on Scrooged?
I love Scrooged. I mean,
Mhm.
so is your issue at the end that like he sort of turns good too quickly?
I don't know. It's just how just self-indulgent just the character even is, and he's just, you know, getting his ex-girlfriend and introducing that, and it's like who actually cares? And he just goes up and he just like gives a passionate kiss to like one of the good-looking dancers, and I'm like, I don't know, like I really because everything up to that is amazing, like all these Ghostbusters style special effects. I gave it a 3.5 because I still it's I mean, it probably speaks to how much I hate the ending that I still give it a 3.5 because the rest of the movie's like a 4.5 for me. But I just can't like it. Like and it almost every movie makes me cry because I'm just become very emotional. I cried in Die Hard 2 watching it the other day, and that's crazy, right?
Mhm.
No emotion for at all for me.
Not too
Scrooge.
crazy. Yeah.
I don't know, but I can understand why everybody loves it. Bad Santa was my third favorite. Hadn't watched that since it came out originally. It's funny. I think it is a funny Christmas movie. Bad Santa for you?
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I don't watch it like too often, but I've seen it a couple of times and I like it. Maybe
Mhm.
not as much as everybody else, but like, or I shouldn't say everybody else, but a lot of people. But I do enjoy it for sure.
Yep. Second most enjoyable watch, I'm counting Nightmare Before Christmas. I think it's Christmassy enough. And number 1, I'd never seen it before. It's been discussed on Film Junk in the past. Santa Claus the movie from 1985. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I watched it a few years ago because I mean, it might have been like 5 years ago at this point, but yeah, I wanted to see it because it was a classic for Jay, a nostalgic
Mm.
classic. And so, yeah, I watched it a few years ago, but I didn't love it, but I mean, I liked it it was an interesting watch.
Absolute, and that sums it up well. It's not a great movie at all, but it's my first time watch. It was the new 4K Blu-ray version, and
Ooh, I want to get that. That sounds good.
oh, it looks great. But it's that kind of whole those big budget flops of the 80s where like there's so much production design and Santa's workshop. There's so many extras and there's so many props, and it just looks so expensive. And the whole, once you hear it's from the same creators as the Superman movie, it makes so much sense because it's paced so similarly and it treats it like a superhero origin story. But
Yeah, for sure.
it just gets so ridiculous. And Dudley Moore's Elf character, Patch, I think, like leaving the workshop and going to New York, I think, and it's a lot like Elf. Like I was
Yeah.
getting a lot of Elf vibes in terms of the story, but I think it was the ending with the super duper looper. Like, earlier in the movie, he's talking about how this one of the reindeers doesn't want to do the super duper looper, which is this big sort of,
Mhm.
big circuit in the sky, and you're like, right, okay, well, this is Chekhov's super duper looper, like, this is going to happen. And then at the end, when they're just chasing the other sleigh, like, because it's going to blow up because it's got these, I don't know,
Yeah.
the things that are going to explode it. And then he just suddenly Santa goes, the super duper looper. It's the only way. And I'm immediately thinking in my head, no, it's not. And then so
Yeah.
they catch up the other sleigh. They could have just jumped off that. And then they suddenly do this ridiculous super duper looper. The other sleigh just explodes and the people fly off and then it lands on it. It was the most unnecessary stunt I'd ever seen.
Well, that's the main part. Like, I don't remember too much of it. I remember certain bits. Like, I remember the beginning and like sort of them like discovering the North Pole and all of that. But the main part that sticks in my head is the super duper looper. That's like when I think about this movie, I just think about that sleigh like flipping.
I had to immediately like rewind it and go like, I can't believe what I'm seeing here. It's so like, and just the mid '80s optical special effects. It's amazing. And then the wrap up at the end where it's just very unclear what's happening because there's the orphan boy, and then there is this young girl that he makes friends with, and they're there, and it seems like is the orphan boy just going to like live at the Santa's workshop, and then Santa's like says to the girl, oh, you can stay till next Christmas as well. And it's like, she's got relatives, like she's got a home, like Santa's effectively kidnapping her.
Yeah, for sure.
It was so strange, but I like strange movies, and then John Lithgow's character just floats off into space.
Sort of like Zod and all those people in like the fan zone.
It is so Superman.
Yeah.
But movies that like perplex me and surprise me, and where I have to rewind something and go, did that just happen? They rate well with me. They leave an impression. The super duper looper leaves an impression.
Yeah. It's definitely a fun watch, and I'd like to watch it at some point in the future. I think I've had enough space between watches, I mean. But your ranking has inspired me.
Yeah.
I want to do an impromptu rank because I watched like 10 movies this year, 10 Christmassy movies. And some of these are like Christmas specials, but I'm going to count them. So I haven't ranked them, so this might be a little bit difficult, but off the top of my head, at the bottom, I'm going to put Silent Night. I enjoyed it, but I thought the no dialogue thing was sort of like I wish they would have stuck more to it. Like, I didn't like how there would be like little bits of like dialogue in the background and stuff, and I wish they would have more stuck to that. And then I thought that the training stuff sort of dragged on for too long. Like, I like that stuff, but I just thought it went on for too long. But ultimately, I still thought it was a fun action movie. It's nice to see John Woo back, and I was a little bit disappointed. It didn't feel super Christmassy for me. It sort of felt like one of those things like we were talking about where it's just sort of in the background. But I still liked it. So at number 9, I would put, let's see. I guess at number 9, I would put Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. I actually hadn't seen this before. I had seen Home Alone. And obviously I'd seen Home Alone a million times. But for some reason, as a kid, I remember seeing like Home Alone 2 VHS tapes sitting around like on shelves and whatnot. But I don't know why. I just never watched it. And I've seen clips and stuff, but I don't think I'd ever watched the entire movie. And I watched it this year, and I enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's still like not like great. Like, I mean, it's obviously silly, like how they sort of force the same like kind of sequence of events to happen. And then like they have to have this, showdown at the end where he's battling the robbers, and like he just ends up in some abandoned like New York house, and it's a little bit ridiculous, but it's still a fun movie.
Do you think that the whole final act with the Wet Bandits, it gets a lot more vicious and a bit more mean spirited? It goes from like the creative toy traps of the first one to just like him just throwing like cinder blocks off the top of a building onto their head,
brick after brick after
this
brick.
Kid is psychotic, and he's like there's some, I don't know, maybe it's some like whenever I watch Home Alone 2, it just feels a little bit icky, whereas I really like Home Alone 1.
Although I think they deserve it. I mean, if you think about it, there's these like 50-year-old men like just coming after this like little kid.
Maybe.
And like
either he's a
And
complete psycho. He's what was that? What's the movie where with him and Elijah Wood where he's like the kind of, is it The Good Son, I think, or something like that, where there's one of those 90s thrillers where he's like a kind of a killer boy. It's almost like he could be the same character like a year removed, because he's extremely gleeful at just throwing bricks at people's head. And I kind of think the Pigeon Lady sucks. Like, I like the shoveler guy from the first movie. Pigeon Lady is basically exactly the same character, and I don't know, the way that the baddies are finally beaten is just getting seeds thrown on them. I don't know. I never liked that ending.
yeah, it's not the best, but like I like the Pigeon Lady. I mean, I know what you mean. Like, it's certainly the same thing, like, repeated. But I like the whole thing of like him getting the two doves from the toy guy, and then like him being like, this represents friendship, and then him giving it to the lady. Yep. Like, I think even though it's a ridiculous movie in most regards, it still sort of like gets at that emotion for me a little bit. Not as well as the first one, but I'm surprised that it did at all. Seeing as it's like a ridiculous sequel. So I enjoyed it, but it's still lower down on my list. At number 8, I'd probably put A Very Jerry Xmas. I'm going to include it in this list because I logged on Letterboxd. Yep.
I watched that for the first time as well.
And it's a Christmas classic for me. What did you think of it?
It was good. Like, I don't know why it'd taken that long to watch it. No, I thought it was, as a junk fan, it was worth watching. Yeah.
It's good seeing him construct that gingerbread house and blow his nose constantly throughout the entire special. I had some great stop motion animation done at the beginning by Rob Niosi.
Oh yeah, that surprised me. Yeah.
Rob Niosi of How to Build a Time Machine, and yeah, but I always enjoy watching it. At number 7, I'd put Tim and Eric, awesome show, great job, Crimbus special.
I should have watched it. I love that. With TV, is it?
Yeah. Or DV.
DV, is it? Yeah. And just that "What am I gonna get" song that they keep doing.
Yeah, I had that stuck in my head. I always had that stuck in my head, even probably throughout life. It's just permanently stuck in my head. But I also had stuck in my head from this viewing, when they're singing to DV and they're like, "Oh, DV, I wish you were my son." That, and sort of just like the weird editing with certain Christmas songs, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, I'm a Tim and Eric fan, a very big Tim and Eric fan, so that's why I enjoy it so much.
I should have done that. Lately I've been watching a lot of for some reason I've just been going back to is it Casey and his brother clips?
Yeah.
we just see he increasingly just looks more and more ghoulish. And have you seen that clip with Josh Groban singing Casey and his brother classics?
Yeah,
Josh Groban, the actual singer, doing, and he's just like, these clips of him singing like to the End of Time song and Cops and Robbers.
It's crazy the people they can get, like, even just to get him in there singing, and like, early in their career, like I think their first stuff was Tom Goes to the Mayor, and that was like 2004 when it started. But right off the bat, they had like John C. Reilly and Jack Black and all kinds of people like doing guest spots.
Well, I think Bob Odenkirk was their big supporter, because
for sure.
I think they sent some of their material to him, and then he helped them get the Tom Goes to the Mayor, and that's why he does a lot of the sort of voice over whatever for the Tim and Eric show, like all the Cinco product ads.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a big part of it. Yeah, but I love that. Number 6, Tangerine. I mean, like we said, I love this movie. I love Sean Baker. He's one of my favorite filmmakers. And it's very, like a Shane Black movie. The Christmas is just sort of in the background. But I always like kind of watching a movie like that, getting a non-traditional Christmas movie in there. Eyes Wide Shut is another good one, but I didn't watch that this year.
Yeah.
Let's see. At number 5, I think I'd put Batman Returns. I watched that. That's another great movie. I love Batman Returns. It's always fun to watch. At number 4, let's say It's a Wonderful Life. I watched that at the rooftop cinema showing, and that was great to see. It rained on me, but I managed to make it to the end. And it's always fun. I've never like out and out loved it. I mean, I like it for sure. I'm not like head over heels for it, but like I still like to watch it every now and then. It's certainly. I was reading up on the history of it, and I saw that I think it wasn't successful when it first came out, and it got nominated for Best Picture and like got Academy Award nominations, but it still didn't do great at the box office. And I don't even really think it was seen as like a Christmas classic or anything until the 70s. And the only reason is because, or not, the main reason was because they started to show it on TV because the rights went into the public domain. So any network could show it. And all of these networks just started showing it around Christmas. And that started the whole idea of it becoming a Christmas classic. Yeah. And, it's obviously a Christmas movie, but it does feel kind of light. You only really get heavy Christmas vibes at the end. But, in the last 30 minutes, I should say. But it's still, I always like watching it, and I'm sure I'll return to it in the future. Obviously, Jimmy Stewart is great. Have you seen it?
Yep. I think only twice. And one of the things I was always thinking, and again, I hope I've remembered it correctly, the conceit of the movie that everybody knows, I feel like it actually takes a surprising amount of time to get to that. But I was first familiar with it mostly from one of the first Batman the Animated Series episodes, a Christmas themed one. Should have watched that actually, with Joker getting out. But Robin's trying to convince Bruce to watch It's a Wonderful Life with him on Christmas Eve, and they end up doing that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's one. My parents were never my family was never into watching it around Christmas because it's like an old movie. But I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of film, so I have no problem watching an older movie. But I only saw it for the first time in like high school, and that would have been like in a classroom setting. We just happened to be watching it around the Christmas season. After we were done with a test or something, the teacher just put it on. And then later I saw it in the theater, like in a movie theater, not like a rooftop setting. That was a few years ago, and that was my second viewing of it, and I got to see it again on a rooftop cinema this year. So it was fun for sure. I don't think I'm messing up my numbering, but I'm gonna do the last few ones here. Die Hard. I saw that in the theater. I saw that in Dolby Cinema. That's like a massive screen at AMC. Like their biggest screen there. Their sound is amazing. And it was really cool to see Die Hard in that way. And I love Die Hard. It's always fun to watch. I've seen it in the theater before, but it was a much smaller screen before. And yeah, this was a great viewing of it. Number 2 would be the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special.
Yeah, you love that.
Yeah, I love the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think this is really well done. And I love the ending. Has great Christmas vibes, and it's directed by James Gunn, and he does a great job with it. Number 1, Catch Me If You Can, and I think me and Kay reviewed this. I know we did.
Yep.
And yeah, that was fun to review with her, and yeah, it's just a classic for me. I mean, I talked about it in our review. Like, it's just, I saw it as a kid with my dad in the theater. That probably adds to some nostalgia, but I just think it's a genuinely great movie. One of Steven Spielberg's best, in my opinion. And it's got a lot of great Christmas vibes. Like Christmas isn't just, I mean, it's certainly in the background. There's other things going on, but there's just Christmas music playing all throughout it. And I definitely like to play it or watch it at this time of year. So yeah, that's my list.
I was actually thinking of Catch Me If You Can. I'm pretty in the. Did Kiss Kiss Bang Bang have sort of animated opening credits?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, definitely similar. Like a Saul Bass kind of thing.
Yeah, that reminded me of the Catch. It's been quite a while since I've seen Catch Me If You Can, but the thing I always remember is the opening sort of animated sort of credits. So that was immediately made me think of it, and I'd sort of forgotten that Catch Me If You Can actually has that Christmas anchor to it.
Yeah, that's really good.
I think the fact that your bottom one started with Silent Night, in spite of us probably having pretty similar opinions of it, shows that you were focusing a lot more on quality than me, whereas the bottom half of my list was just any Christmas horrors we could find, and Netflix rom-coms that my wife wanted to watch. So
yeah, well, I think you were focusing on watching stuff for the first time. It sounds like, and I was like, a lot of my stuff was just rewatching staples. So that's probably yeah.
Vast majority were. It's probably only like 3 or 4 rewatches there, and I'd looked at my list from December last year, and a lot of the usual classics, like Gremlins and Jingle All the Way, which I have a soft spot for. Like a lot of them had been watched last year, and I don't like watching the same movies, back to back like that. So we had to do something a little bit different. So next year might be a little bit easier. We'll be back to Home Alone and some of those others.
Yeah, I feel that with like A Christmas Story. Like it's always hard to watch that. I mean, because I love it. I mean, I love A Christmas Story, but it's playing every year. My parents always like to watch it on Christmas, but they sort of like don't really watch it, like because there's like a channel that it'll be on, and then so they'll just tune into it, and they kind of like to just go into any point of the movie and not start from the beginning. So I'll catch it, and like, cause I watched some of it this year, I'll catch it from whatever point it's on, and I'll watch a bit of it. But in a few years, or maybe next year, we'll see. I'd like to watch it like if it's playing in the theater or something like that, because I do love that movie.
I need to watch that Christmas Story Christmas movie, because in my I've been listening to the Junk episodes from the very start again, from Space Junk through to now, and I'm almost caught up. I'm up to pretty much a year ago. So last year around this time, they were talking about Christmas Story Christmas and how many attempts to watch it Frank was taking.
Yeah.
But all 3 of them kind of liked it, and it sounds like it was a sort of a mild recommendation. So I think next year I'm going to give A Christmas Story Christmas a go, because at the very least it's going to be very Christmassy.
Yeah, for sure.
It doesn't have to be great if it's Christmassy, because Christmas, Christmas, get a lot of mileage just out of it being Christmas.
Yeah. I thought about watching that this year, but I didn't end up watching it. But yeah, maybe next year for sure. I do. Jay inspired me with this latest episode. I guess he talked about it in the Christmas Story Black Christmas Premium, but he was talking about A Christmas Story Christmas a bit, and I do want to check it out for sure. But that's pretty much it.
I haven't listened to that actually. Did he still recommend A Christmas Story Christmas?
Oh yeah, he liked it, and yeah, so he definitely recommended it. Yeah, so I want to check it out, because I wouldn't have expected him to like it.
Yeah.
But do you have anything else? I don't really, I can't think of anything else about the movie or anything, but we've had like a good talk about Christmas, and I hope you had a great Christmas.
I did. I think we've sufficiently juiced this one. So,
yeah.
Really, really great talking. Thanks, Tina.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, thanks a lot for being here. It was a good time for sure.
Absolutely. You enjoy the rest of your sort of Christmas period.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and Happy New Year to you. And I'll talk to you next time, and I'll see everyone else next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Thanks.